If you found the content interesting and helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you out there.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. My good friend Ryan Meyer is with us today. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Ryan is one of the coolest people in the United States and probably the whole world too. He's my partner in crime with our Kokoro that we undertaking last year, hardest thing that people can do. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a holistic nutritionist. He's a damn good trainer at the best personal training studio in the world, Burlingame Fitness. And he's joining us here today to debunk some bro science. He and I were chit-chatting the other day, and we just got to talking about well, I don't know. Why don't you, Ryan, why don't you roll it out, man? How do we get to talking about this? Why do we feel like this episode is necessary?
I think it's a good chat to have. I also think it's just kind of fun because we do work in the world of fitness, and that's, our entire lives. And we probably grew up reading bodybuilding magazines and trying to figure out how to work out and get muscles and all of that most of our lives.
Yeah.
And, nutrition is just one of those really interesting subjects where there's just a lot of, we refer to it as bro science, or a lot of urban legend,
Right.
Right. And, I still hear it today, in fitness circles, and hearing, other trainers talk to their clients, or dudes chit-chatting in the gym, or, you name it, scrolling through Instagram. There's just still so much confusion about it all out there. And so, I just think it would be fun to hit some of these subjects and see where it goes.
Hell yeah, man. And just for the record, for clarity, I actually didn't read bodybuilding magazines. I was more into Wizard magazine, which is like rank the value of your comic books. And Ranger Rick. I was big into Ranger Rick, but no bodybuilding magazines. I was actually, for a long time, I was afraid to lift weights because my friends were going to make fun of me. And then I started wrestling, and I was like, you know what? I could probably take any of my friends. I'm going to stay within my weight class, but try to get a little jacked. So here we are. We're going to debunk some bro science here, and we're going to use our combined 25 years of expertise in the fitness field to throw some things out there that we've heard, and then we're just going to talk about them. So we've got a little list, and why don't we just start at the top?
Sure.
Sound good? Okay. So the first in our list is that there is an anabolic window and the need for an immediate protein dose post workout. And I think we both called bullshit on this. And so why is that not true?
Well, let me start by saying that the anabolic window or recovery window is actually true. It's real.
Okay.
But the need for that immediate protein in your body, or you're going to go catabolic and muscles are going to start eating themselves, and all that shit that we've, heard over the years, is not true. So the anabolic window exists within, there's some debate, but let's just say it's 2 to 2.5 hour window, kind of where it all lands, where you are able to maximize recovery through nutrition after working out. So that's, getting your carbohydrate in to restore glycogen, getting that protein in. Obviously, that matters at some point, which we'll circle back to. But at the end of the day, that really only is most important for somebody who is like a super athlete who's working out twice a day.
So most people, 99% of gym goers are, they're concerned about something, kind of like if you remember in Dumb and Dumber, when they come into the ski lodge and they have those helmets on to go as fast as possible down the hill to try to shave milliseconds off of their downhill time. It's kind of like somebody like Harry and Lloyd worrying about their downhill times when they really should just be worried about making it to the gym 5 days a week and maybe eating real foods.
Totally.
Got it.
That is the perfect way to put it. That is a perfect way to put it. So at the end of the day, we did not evolve as humans in such a way that every time we were physically active, we would need to refuel immediately, or our bodies would go catabolic and start eating themselves. We would have never survived famine and
It
starvation.
doesn't seem like evolution would
wouldn't.
have would have lasted as the 300,000 years that it's taken us to get here. If that were
Absolutely.
the case, like we would have just eaten ourselves, just blah.
Exactly.
Now,
And that's a really like dumbed down answer as to like why that is kind of a ridiculous, theory.
right.
So anyways, at the end of the day, when it comes to protein, what matters most is total daily amount of protein within a 24-hour window.
Okay.
So resistance training itself will stimulate protein synthesis. So that process will already start to take care of itself, whether you take a dose of protein or not.
So what if so your body would have to have the adequate amount of protein within the liver, within the stomach first, and then liver bloodstream in order to synthesize that protein? That's a question.
Yeah, well, so that's kind of an interesting, that goes, and then we'll go real deep down a rabbit hole there.
Okay.
But
Well, let's just stick our heads in the rabbit hole. We don't have to dive all the way in, but
So, yeah.
because actually, I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. So most people, unless you're just in a one of those gym bros who's just in a bulking phase all the time and has maybe a little too much table muscle, but most people do not get adequate amounts of protein into their diet to fit their resistance training regimen. Would you agree with that?
I would say the people,
Blanket of a statement.
I think women struggle more.
Okay.
I'll start there, just from my experience. And I
Right.
think people that are consciously aware, that are like, I need to eat protein, I'm trying to gain muscle, or I'm trying to be fit or whatever, I think they tend to do okay, because they're aware of it. But then I think there are a lot more people out there that are not aware of that, of what they need
Right.
protein wise, and are probably missing the mark.
And are we still going to, are we, and just the mark, let's establish what that is for the listeners. I always preach and try my best to practice between 80 and 100% of your body weight in grams of protein, depending on what your goals are. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes, that is
Okay.
a great, just round number for anybody and everybody.
Right. And if you're like a bodybuilder or an elite athlete, don't worry about it too much. Stick to the Harry and Lloyd. People who are competing for something, or maybe have an injury to recover from, should probably go a little closer towards the elite athlete monitoring. But for the general population, Harry and Lloyd. Agreed?
General population, a gram per pound of body weight is a good place to be.
Got it.
People who are quite overweight, I mean, it really only needs to be a gram per pound of lean body mass.
Okay.
So I typically will tell people who are a little more on the overweight side, we can kind of round down a bit.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of another tangent. So I would just use the body weight.
I've found that I don't even bother telling people when I'm giving my limited nutrition, comparative to you, my limited nutritional advice, because people, I know that people aren't going to get their RDAs in. Like if I've got a 200-pound man and he is, or 150-pound woman or 120-pound woman, if I'm like, you need 120 grams of protein, let's look at that in picture form. She's going to be like, oh my God, that's a lot of food. I'm going to be like, yes, well, you're trying to do a lot. And that stigma that you're trying to get over from, the 90s when Devil's Food and Nabisco or whatever convinced everybody that calories were bad and fat was bad. People tend to train like they want to train like rhinos and eat like rabbits, and getting over that stigma is much, much harder to do. It's hard to get them to eat good food, I've found. So I just say 80 to 100, do your best to get there.
Yeah.
And if they do it for a week, then we tweak that recommendation a little bit more.
Right.
So, all right. So the anabolic window, not true.
Well, the anabolic window.
Well, I'm sorry. Yes, it is true. I apologize. It is true.
It is real.
Most people are Harry and Lloyd and don't need to really worry about that. We're not, Bruce Wayne, and need to recharge to defend Gotham for an ungodly amount of years.
Right.
Right.
At the end of the day, what matters most is total daily protein should land in that 1 pound or 1 gram per pound of body weight gray area. And as long as that's happening within that 24-hour time frame every day, you'll have plenty of protein to deal with for the body to deal with what it needs to deal with.
Got it. And I think it's also important to note that the soft tissue, first of all, women, you're not going to get bulky. You don't have enough testosterone in your bloodstream to do that. That's the first thing that we just knock right off the list. Secondly, is soft tissue is the very last in line. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan. Soft tissue is the very last in line to receive that protein. So if you're like your vital organs come first, hence the name vital organs. The secondary, I'm actually not even sure past vital organs, but I know that soft tissue, meaning muscle tissue, is last in line to receive the protein. Am I incorrect or correct in that belief?
You are correct. So the body is going to survive first, and protein is involved in essentially almost every function of our body, literally down to the cellular level.
Yep.
So protein is necessary for every single function in the body. That's all going to get covered first for survival. And then
Love it.
Yes, the soft tissue gets it last.
So all the more important to get it in. And we might as well cover this real fast. So the word hydrolyzed, when you say, so I preach protein supplementation because it's hard to eat that much food, especially if you're a 200-pound guy like me, or someone who's just, in their relative scale. I find it's hard to eat 200 grams of real protein, real food in a day and not become incredibly lethargic. So would a protein supplement that is hydrolyzed bypass the liver easier than an all natural source like chicken or shrimp or fish or whatever?
I honestly, I couldn't give you a solid answer on that. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any studies out there that show that there's any benefit there if it's hydrolyzed.
Okay.
What I can say is that there are definitely plenty of studies that show that protein supplements in general tend not to fully absorb. You are only getting somewhere between 5 to 15% of that. And
shit.
That's just dependent on the person and, how healthy their digestion is, et cetera.
Now, what about a digestive enzyme?
Yeah, so you add a digestive enzyme, and there are some studies out there that have shown much, much higher blood concentration of essential amino acids when taken with a digestive enzyme. That's one of the reasons I typically recommend people take vitamins and any sort of supplement with food. The reality is your body knows what to do with the food. Now, this is, taking into consideration that people have healthy digestion and that they're producing enough of the enzymes necessary to break down and digest their food properly. That's a whole nother conversation.
Sure.
But yeah, at the end of the day, food is always going to be the best, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of protein supplements, but I do recommend if people are going to do it, if they're struggling to get enough protein in, take it with a digestive enzyme and just make sure you're choosing a high quality supplement.
Got it.
High quality protein.
Got it. Okay. And I will make a note to myself and a promise to all the listeners that I will put some quality protein supplements that we like in the show notes, so you can find those and not be like, but here's a pretty good guide for you. If it has lots of fluorescent coloring on the outside, or it comes in like a chrome bottle, you probably shouldn't put it into your body. It's going to have things. I'm not a pre-workout guy. I took it one time when I was about 22 years old, many a moon ago. And I was a trainer at Bally's, knowing nothing about what I was doing. And I just took another, he's like, it's a protein supplement. And I come back in and I'm doing a set of whatever in the mirror. And I'm like, I feel like my skin's getting a little discolored here. And I walk in and I'm like, hey guys, and I don't even finish. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with your skin? And I just broke out in these hives.
Oh man.
And it was just like itchy and weird. I'm just like, A, I'm a high energy guy already. And B, actually, when people are tired, you have so much more in the tank than just do like 10 burpees, you'll wake right up. But I'm not a pre-workout kind of guy. I like to keep it as simple as possible. And the only reason I supplement every day is because I don't want to become lethargic with my my energy when I've got to be on and, you know, talking to you. Okay. So let's put that one to bed. Do you want to add anything on the existence of the anabolic window immediately pre and post workout, excuse me?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Moving on down. The body going into starvation mode and miraculously storing fat while in a calorie deficit. Now, this is okay. You go ahead on this one, because I don't want to speak outside of my, like, your body will store fat, but it takes a lot longer to get to that point. Correct?
Well, okay. Storing fat, I guess we should just be clear here. Okay. The body you're typically going to store fat almost every time that you eat, especially when you're eating fat itself. It's essentially going to go right to your fat cells. How quickly it gets reused for energy. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're still going to continue to lose body fat, you know, as you're working towards that goal, or as long as you're in that deficit.
Yes.
Just to kind of clear up the statement that you just made, and where I'd like to go with it, is that there's this myth out there that if you restrict calories long enough, or if you're just not eating enough in general and you're trying to lose weight, that somehow your metabolism is going to completely slow down to a point where your body's going to start storing fat because you're in starvation mode or survival mode. And that is just like not the case. That's a complete myth. And I hear it a lot. I overhear conversations about, oh, if you're in too much of a deficit, your body's going to go into starvation mode and you're actually going to start to store fat. And that's just absolutely not true. So I think that's a big one to debunk, and we can unpack it a little bit.
Okay. Well, let's unpack it. Let's start where your body, from my understanding, your body well, I don't even like starvation mode. I call it like survival mode.
Sure.
And the analogy that I like to use analogies because most of my clients don't care about the science. They just trust me enough to say, tell me what to do in layman's terms, Dumb and Dumber ski helmet. So what I like to use is, let's say you're going on a road trip and you got a car with a full tank of gas, or a truck, or full battery charge. And instead of that full battery charge, you were like, you know what, I'm going to go on a quarter charge or a quarter tank of gas. And you make it to, you know, a quarter of the way where you're trying to go. Now your car's going to stop, but your body, because it's a biological system, is going to start to pull energy from places where you don't want it to pull. It's going to start breaking down things like lean muscle mass for energy, things that you don't want to do. In order to make the rest of that trip. Are we accurate so far?
Not quite.
Okay, well, break it down to me. That's why we're having this conversation.
Not quite. So basically the consensus out there in the scientific world is that the average person, let's just take a male that's, you know, 170 pounds, a female that's 140 pounds, okay, has enough stored calories in their body to survive for 40 days. That's a fairly lean, healthy person. Okay, it's a long time to go. It's a long time without food. All right. And next statement there is that somebody who is overweight, who has weight to lose, has a lot longer amount of time of survival without food, because that's what that body fat is stored there for. Okay? So second aspect is glycogen, muscle glycogen, liver glycogen. Right. So that is another form of fuel. Liver glycogen is going to be something that our body can feed off of for energy. Muscle glycogen is going to be used when we are moving, exercising, walking, running, etc.
Say that one more time. That's an important one.
All right. So liver glycogen is used for energy, basic energy, overall survival energy.
Yep. Yep. Just your operating, breathing in a chair.
Yes.
Got it.
Muscle glycogen is going to be utilized through movement. So you go out on a nice long run and you haven't eaten anything. Your body's going to start tapping into the glycogen that's stored in your legs, right then and there, to create ATP for energy.
Okay.
So body fat, which we all should have plenty of, let's just say 30 to 40 days worth for the average person. And then your muscle glycogen and liver glycogen, which are things that obviously you can tap out. Those aren't going to last as long as the body fat. Your body is going to use those forms of energy far quicker than they're going to start to break down muscle for energy.
Okay.
And one of the best ways I can describe this is your carbohydrate.
If you found the content interesting and helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you out there.